So the T app just got hacked again, and it is not like as if it is a separate vulnerability from last time, for it is the exact same vulnerability that was exploited just last week. I mean, it's almost as if these vibe coding developers just don't learn from their most recent mistakes. Now, before I get into the exploit and what actually happened, I would like to first just give an analogy. So imagine a house where in order to get into the house, you have to walk through the front door, except this house has no walls and it's just a front door, some carpet and some furniture. And this furniture actually contains some very valuable information. And in this case, that information is 13,000 selfies and images of IDs, as well as 1.1 million private messages from the second hack. Now, both vulnerabilities have occurred through their Firebase services. And the reason, well, it's because they haven't used Firebase security rules. And it's personally funny to me because I actually made a video about Firestore security rules back when I was a junior developer, and the video only got 1,800 views. If it was just 1,801, this whole problem would have been avoided. Now, I honestly don't know how they were protecting women from red-flagged men who were using fake names.
Hi. Ken Adams. Nice to meet you.
Regina Phalange.
Because they can't even protect themselves from 4chan users. But that's enough of the roasting, let's get into what exactly happened. So I mentioned that the hack actually occurred through their Firebase services, but I haven't mentioned exactly how. So Firebase is known as a backend as a service, or as some people like to call it, a big-ass backend. And these big-ass backends are used for lazy developers because they don't want to build their own backend. So how Firebase works is you have a client, and the client communicates directly with Firebase. And Firebase provides a bunch of services, most notably authentication, Firestore database, and the storage bucket. Now, remember when I said that there is a front door that you have to walk in? Well, that is the authentication for their app. In order to get into the app, you have to verify that first you are a woman. Don't ask me what a woman is. I mean, I don't know. And the second is they have to actually create an account. Now, the problem is once they verified who they are and all the pictures that they have been sending, those messages were not going through the front door. They were actually communicating directly with the Firebase storage bucket. And that's where security rules come into play. You see, if you want to be able to access a specific image, you have to not only verify that you are a user, which is authentication, but you actually need to verify who you are. Authorization. And unfortunately for them, they did not implement these security rules, essentially granting access to everybody regardless of whether they're authenticated or not. So in other words, the application gave off the illusion that it was secure, and that's only because the client-side code was querying the data that they were supposed to see, rather than not being allowed to query the data that they're not supposed to see. Now, the second hack actually happened the exact same way. Now, I'm not entirely sure because this is second-hand information, but on the news it's mentioned that there's an API key that they need in order to be able to access these private messages. Now, this API key that they're talking about is in fact a client-side API key. And it is there to connect you to your Firebase account, so there is actually no problem there. Now, the problem is this API key, again, does indeed verify you to access that particular Firebase account, but it does not prevent you from querying the data. The Firestore security rules do. So in other words, I could essentially change the client-side code from something like give me messages between me and Sheila to give me messages between Karen and Sheila.
Bye, Terry. All right, Alan, whatever. Go inside. Bye, Sheila. See you, Terry.
And because their Firebase account only checks for authentication and not authorization, Firebase will gladly give it to me. Albeit Firebase does indeed give you a bunch of warnings and emails telling you that everything is public, but who likes to read when you're a vibe coder?